At this point, we are starting the closing session, which is the last 15 minutes of today. At the beginning of the closing session, I would first like to thank our admins, actually, which I think we haven't mentioned yet. So Alma and Amy have done tremendous work also in helping us organize this symposium. With that, I would like to start a review and a summary of the 2 very fruitful days that we had in this symposium. All right, so I'll actually let Yolanda start the summary of these and the reflection of this symposium.
Thank you, Philip. It's been a really thrilling 2 days, and we've received so many great comments and feedback about the meeting. Thank you all for participating. We wanted to have a summary session of the topics that were discussed in the symposium, in case you missed any of the sessions and any of the speakers. We started with the first session on common sense reasoning, and Philip actually started showing us how he integrated 7 major existing sources of common sense knowledge and developed an AI system that used this to complete stories. For example, starting with, I am at home and I want to warm up, but there's no blanket. The AI system will follow up with, use a jacket. That's pretty good common sense right there. Manuel Chiosici showed how to use common sense captured in large language models to complete multi-step scripts written by users. So for example, the steps involved in buying a car and suggesting users step that they may have forgotten, and reported that users accept about 50% of the AI system's suggestions. Ram Nevatia does research that focuses on zero-shot learning approaches to understand images and videos, and wants to use prior knowledge about the world. There are great challenges in his work in integrating common sense knowledge with state-of-the-art deep learning methods. Xiang Ren described an approach that he calls scene imagination, where given a set of words, it will generate a scene using common sense that is captured in language models. So for example, given dog, frisbee, catch, the system will generate a man throws away his dog's favorite frisbee, expecting him to catch it in the air. So that was the first session on common sense reasoning. Philip?
Right, so the second session was about acquiring and organizing common sense knowledge. So here again, we had 4 speakers. Pedro Zekeli showed that there are currently dozens of common sense knowledge sources out there that are very heterogeneous, that have different properties, different creation processes. And Pedro showed how this knowledge can be consolidated into 13 dimensions, and how this enables us to see a connection between different knowledge subsets and downstream tasks, and show how adding more knowledge to AI systems does not always need to lead to better performance. Marjorie Friedman, considering that common sense knowledge is very difficult to obtain, discussed different ways in which this can be acquired: expert input, crowdsourcing, and extracting or embedding text. Marjorie showed that this knowledge can be acquired for the purposes of key tasks, such as learning event scripts, and also aligning common sense knowledge with factual knowledge in Wikidata. Then we had Mu-Hao Chen, who discussed methods for more noise-robust knowledge distillation and acquisition from text, based on combining multiple models and incorporating also logical constraints, which also aim to improve performance on out-of-distribution examples. And finally, we had Yolanda Gill, who reflected on methods for acquiring knowledge through crowdsourcing. So Yolanda provided insights into how we can manage volunteer effort by drawing in volunteers, minimizing their training, and also setting up a targeted collection effort Yolanda also discussed how to best structure and interconnect the knowledge once we have acquired it, and how we can validate and refine the resulting knowledge. And so we finished yesterday by a keynote by Tomer Ullman from Harvard University, which was fairly complementary to the other sessions that we have by USC. Tomer Ullman provided evidence for normative and empirical connections between AI and developmental science. He explained that children are known to grasp core physics and core psychology from their early days, based on understanding general principles about both objects, like permanence, or agents, things like goals. Tomer's own work aims to build minimal game engines for core physics and core psychology, which are approximate and also and are generally based on an internal scene representation that serves to simulate these expectations and the expectations of these agents and infer based on these expectations. Looking forward, Tomer made the point that the notion of an object is critically missing in today's neural networks. So going forward, we had session 3, which was this morning, which explored the role of common sense in facilitating computational thinking and creativity. Mayank Kerival discussed novel approaches to generating new ideas, asking what features must a computational model have in order to serve effectively as an idea generator. Mayank also asked how good are current models in doing so, and how could this idea generation be effectively evaluated. Mayank presented their multi-agent environment for generating novelty in complicated games such as Monopoly. Then we had Fred Morstatter, who discussed biases in humans that we do not want AI systems to adopt when using common sense knowledge. For example, politicians are corrupt, may be true, but it generally is not. So Fred studied the representational harms of overgeneralization and disparity, and he showed that algorithms amplify existing bias present in knowledge sources. Yet he also showed that the level of bias and the kinds of bias depend highly on the employed algorithm and the background knowledge used. Then we had Jay Pujara, who talked about his research on using AI to read minds in the tasks of dialogue response generation and story understanding. So this work of Jay is based on a shared grounding between the participants in the communication. He discussed how to explore the link between the generated response of the AI agent and the implicit internal inferences done by this agent, which is based on common sense knowledge and psychological axioms. Finally, in this third session, we had Emmanuel Johnson, who argued that AI needs common sense in order to assist people with negotiation, based on principles of value claiming and value creating, but also based on modeling of AI opponents and diagnosing errors. Furthermore, these negotiation agents need to be able to interact with other agents in a natural way, so natural language understanding and generation becomes a crucial component. And then back to you, Yolanda, to kind of summarize the other sessions.
The final, fourth and final session of presentations in the symposium was under the theme of common sense in AI agents and robotics. Jonathan Grach pointed out that today's AI systems infer people's emotions from facial expressions, and his work incorporates situational reasoning to understand people's goals and model how people maximize expected emotion in their plans rather than just utility of outcomes. Stefanos Nikolaidis analyzes robot failures in understanding user goals, particularly doing research in human-robot coordination tasks, such as assembling furniture together and the robot misunderstanding what the person is trying to convey or communicate through their actions. Maya Matarik discussed trust and biases in human-robot interactions, where, for example, humans communicating with androgynous-looking robots assign them a biased gender based on their tasks, such as female for nursing or male for doctor dialogues. Mike Pisani described his research on generating explanations for machine learning systems that refer to terms and knowledge about the particular domain. So, for example, the explanations should use well-known bird features to explain why a bird is classified as a particular species. And finally, we had a panel that discussed the relationships between common sense and artificial general intelligence that you all just heard. A very interesting discussion on the current successes of recent work on language models that result from processing large volumes of text, but also the really severe limitations of current representations and major mistakes that happen that diminish trust and usability. They discuss the importance of not just having that knowledge, but be able to do useful reasoning with it. For example, with analogies or causality, and the importance of generating useful explanations for users. I think a great point of the panel was to point out that evaluating AI systems that use common sense is very challenging, because often the metrics come from machine learning measures, particularly in industry, rather than focusing on methods that are more from cognitive sciences and a psychology tradition that help us measure human performance in common sense situations. So many challenges ahead in this very vibrant research area, but they pointed out that they expect a lot more work on extracting common sense from multimodal sources as a crucial area of research. It was a fantastic panel. And in closing, many of you commented in the chat and to us on email that a great merit of this symposium was the breadth of areas of common sense, the target tasks, the approaches to evaluating AI systems. We heard about very diverse things, from story generation, image understanding, reasoning about emotion, social skills, communicating with robots, creativity, addressing biases and stereotyping in common sense, understanding incomplete tasks with common sense, and also we heard about human psychology and child development. Thank you. I want to thank Philip for putting together such a great array of speakers, and for everyone at USC that is working so hard in pushing this very challenging research area for AI. If you missed any of these presentations and sessions, the recordings will be available in the website in the next couple of days, and we'll be sending a reminder about this. And we will close by wishing everyone fruitful and exciting research in the years ahead on AI with common sense. And with this, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you again at another AI symposium.